Welcome back, and today we're going to be looking at the TakCom Vigor V2. A nice, sleek, lightweight, and in my opinion, attractive looking out the front automatic. This one has a Tanto blade with a nice satin finish on it. You have an overall length on this at 7.5 inches, so more medium to large knife for some people. And you have a 3.07 inch Tanto blade of 154 cm steel. Nice satin finish, dual fullers on both sides, super bulky, robust tip there. Decent little sharpening notch right there, should give you some sharpening life. I sharpened this knife up after the testing and it sharpened up very nicely. Now, being that it's a short height flat grind, it's not going to be the thinnest behind the edge, but with a good sharp edge out of box, it should perform just like most the rest of the out the fronts out there. Let's test it out. My knife came really sharp out of box, and due to the nice straight edge portion on the knife, it made this type of cut really easy. It's not going to be the sliciest because of the short flat grind height that you have, but as long as you keep a nice sharp edge on it, you can definitely get this stuff done very, very effectively. It was comfortable so far. Of course, this is light duty stuff. You got decent contouring on the scales, and they filled out my hands nice, especially in that hammer grip. That was probably the most comfortable grip that I used in all the testing that I did. No problems with the pocket clip so far getting in the way. And yeah, I think it did really well. We're going to test the ergos on this piece of birch, and it was a pretty messed up piece already, so it's not the knife struggling here, it's me struggling to get the good spot, a good flat spot to carve on. But I did start increasing the pressure, and I started moving my hands around a good bit, because when you're pressing down hard, there you can see it there, when you're pressing down hard, that button is sticking you in the palm. But that's the same with pretty much any side opening automatic that I've tested. It's not pokey or anything, but being that it sticks up, that piece is kind of bearing into, you know, that spot of my hand. But you could definitely get it done, and I felt like I had a lot of power. I decided to do some stab testing just to make sure it didn't want to close on me while doing this. I was getting nice penetration. You got a nice sturdy tip because of that Tanto, and it was decently comfortable. There's no glass breaker or anything at the butt of the knife, so I can put my thumb comfortably there so I don't slide up onto that edge. I was able to get a lot of downward force into the wood. And now we move to the 1/2 inch sisal rope. I pulled it up on the block because it's a Tanto, and it makes it really difficult to cut on a flat surface when you're having to push down like this. Once again, I did start feeling that button when I was pushing down, so I tried to swap up to that pointer finger grip, but it just wasn't working for me. So I went back and let that hump kind of stick me in the palm. I was able to get through 55 cuts, and you know, easy for the cutting portion, but as far as comfort wise, it was just okay. I mean, these are designed as tactical knives anyway. It's not really a EDC blade for most people, but that's how I always test my stuff, because that's why I carry them as EDC knives. But yeah, I was push cutting a lot of them. It just required a little bit of extra pressure because you're using that straight edge, so you really got to go all the way through the cut instead of like a knife with a belly where you can kind of rock it into it or push it forward into it. But it did fine. Using that secondary tip right there on the Tanto to do the drag cuts very, very easily. That's one thing I do like about a Tanto, is you have that point right there to do drag cuts and secondary precise cutting. And I use the Tanto portion for a lot of this stuff, or at least that secondary point to get it started. And for all this stuff, I was able to do it fairly easily on the flat surface. It's got to be mindful of that tip so it doesn't come down into what you're cutting. And yeah, like I said, even though the Tanto portion is pretty thick behind the edge because that's how most of them are, it's a flat grind, still able to get this done. It was struggling right here, so you'll see me in a second raise it up on the block to finish it out, just because I wanted more cutting edge, just to make sure the knife was still performing nicely. And yeah, it still felt like it had a good bit of aggression to that edge, and I was more than satisfied, especially being a Tanto. All right, now let's take a look at the deployment and action of the knife. Like I said, it's an out the front automatic. It's got a pyramid stepped button, slide button. It's nice and smooth, and you have a good bit of travel. As you can see, good bit of travel before it comes out, and once you release it, it comes rocketing out. I've probably flipped this 1,000 times. I have not had a misfire yet, even on a soft push. Excellent job with the out the front mechanism. Very nice. Like I said, comfortable, smooth, just enough texture on that button to give you enough grip, and it rockets out. It does have a little bit of a squeak from time to time, but that could probably be fixed with some lube or something down there. Spray some lube in there, but that's, you know, pretty common on even my Microtechs. Now, this is what really attracted me, is the handle of this out the front. I love that red G10 inlay. I think it looks very, very classy. You know, I've seen some I've seen some carbon fiber inlays. I even have one with carbon fiber, but haven't seen a whole lot of G10. I know Microtech does some, but they're way more expensive than this. The hardware, unfortunately, is T6. I would have loved to see T8 on that, but these right here come in at 170 bucks. So I think they're definitely competitive in their pricing for the quality of out the front you're getting. I like how slender it is. I like how they rounded over everything on the aluminum frame. You have no hot spots anywhere. Some nice texture on the top to put your fingers there. Some nice milling on the back side. It also adds a little bit of texture to that aluminum. It's a fairly lightweight auto, coming in at 4 ounces. You just have a regular bent stainless pocket clip, and nothing fancy, but I'm good with it. You do have, if you want to try to feed some kind of lanyard through this little bitty hole, you could, but it's pretty tiny. The ergos for me were pretty comfortable. Whenever I was holding it in hammer grip, doing cutting in hand, it was very comfortable. I thought it performed pretty nice. Only time that I found it to be uncomfortable, and this is the same with all 3 of my other automatics, or 4 automatics, whenever I am pushing down, like when I'm cutting the rope, cutting on a flat surface, and you're really pushing down, the button on any automatic that has a side button like that, I find that it digs into the finger right here, and it's not that comfortable. Can you do this stuff? Yeah, and I could do it, you know, a good bit of before I had to stop, but just something to note. They did a good job though of knocking off any hard edges to it. It's rather comfortable as far as to the touch. Quick size comparison with the Microtech Ultratech and the Guardian Tactical Recon 035. It's a little bit smaller than the 035. It's a good bit smaller than the Ultratech. Next up, we have the Axial Gear Shift V1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. Lastly, we have the Spyderco PM2 and Power 3. Nitpicks and complaints. I don't really have much. I would have liked to see T8 hardware, possibly a deep carry pocket clip, but you know, this one works just fine. It would have been awesome to have that inlay on both sides. It would just look nicer, but it's not hurting the functionality. And I don't know, you know, that's pretty common as far as like how they put the sharpening tools like that. And it's gonna start to widen up a little bit. You just got to be careful, so at least you're getting something there. So I call it just a nitpick, but overall at 170 bucks, I think it's an excellent value. I think it looks nice. It's got very smooth action. It's definitely competing with companies like Axial Gear, you know, to give you something a little bit more affordable than some of the big players like Microtech, Guardian Tactical. But yeah, overall, I like it. Definitely one I could recommend. I thought it held up nicely. I'm not a huge Tanto fan, but you know, I did some stabbing with it. It held up fine there as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. If you're interested in one of these, I will have it linked in the description, and I'll try to put it in the comments if I remember. And I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.